There I am. I was muted. I was saying, hi, everyone. Welcome to this live transmission. I'm very excited about the topic that I will be sharing with you today. Finally, after a couple of weeks or even a few weeks, after I did the first announcement of this show, talking about this ancient book of Revelations, talking about galactic prophecies. And I've shown images, and I will show in a bit. Hi, Brad. Hi, everyone. I will show in a bit images, pictures, and well, it's mostly a video about this book. I have also some of the tablets here with me to show them physically to you. And so that you can see with me why I name it this way as an ancient book of Revelations. There is something that when we're talking about these ancient alien artifacts, or not so ancient, for instance, like the spectral spheres that are popping up into the surface, that had been cloaked for a while, and that now they are becoming evident to our naked eye, and that makes us wonder, why are they here for? Is this the first time that they have shown? And that will lead us to even a deeper level of comprehension of the galactic community's interaction with us, therefore its purpose, and generating in us an awareness of what we are being called to do right here, right now, in this stage of human evolution. Because, of course, if we move from a causality approach, a perception of life, knowing that nothing is random, that everything is following cause, and it's leading to a causation, then we will know that throughout the journey of revealing, the origin and the effect, it will take us to higher truths that doesn't keep us isolated from the result, yet very much involved. Meaning by this, what we are being called to do as a cosmic race, as a collective, because again, our choice is fundamental, is critical, day by day, to shape this reality. And again, if all these ancient alien artifacts, or not so ancient, are here, it's not isolated from us. It's not like, oh, they belong to this galactic race, and yeah, that's very far, and how could I possibly be involved on that? They're in our field, and everything that comes closer to us is calling in for action. So now, having said this, I will tell you more about the correlation of this ancient book and prophecies. You know, we, throughout human story, evolutive story, the story of evolution, we have witnessed many ancient texts expressing prophecies. We have very famous beings, humans, that were very much involved in dictating these prophecies as a result of their high connection and coherent connection with the space memory network, with the Akasha, however you want to call it. And that led us to first perceive it as something merely um, non-provable at all, you know, just as something that would happen every once in a while by someone super special, unique, illuminated, and that wasn't possible for anyone else, or hardly anyone else, to embody. Nowadays, we are aware that that power resides in each one of us. That level of interconnectivity to the space memory network can be enabled in each one of us. It depends on the level of commitment that we have to power up, to empower our multidimensional body from a state of awareness, because it is empowered anyway, it is existing. However, the potential or the level in which we interact or use it, it depends again on us. It's a choice, it's an everyday choice. So when you, for instance, you talk to an elder about all these ancient artifacts, alien artifacts that they have found, there is always this sense, this word of being high tuned prophecies, that everything that we are seeing and unearthing is revealing a prophecy that is coming to exist, to be manifested right here, right now. For instance, when we saw the first time, you know, like in all the news about the boogosphere, and then all of a sudden, people that had these ancient artifacts with the very same code, and that were not aware or hadn't given the appropriate relevance to that code because they didn't know what it was. And now that the boogosphere showed, even more artifacts with that code start, you know, like popping up, you know, like a trend. So I have been speaking about this in other shows, like with Mary Smith and Trevor Miller in this last one, or in the one with only Emery Smith and I, in other shows that I have been doing, where I explain that the advanced technology that these ancient artifacts have is they are signaling, they are emitting high-pitched frequencies that are infrasound, that are quantum tunneling to this entangled nexus that precisely was created, was designed with the purpose of, once one unit, one artifact is brought into this reality and us being aware of it, it starts to propagate into a higher exposure, its frequency, and connecting at a deeper level, at a more coherent level with all the other devices, artifacts that have those same codes. Imagine Let's put it in other words. Let's say your DNA, you know, you get a DNA test, and now you're aware that you also hold um, Hindu codes and Arabic codes and Irish codes and so forth. So then the moment that you become aware of that, then you start, we are so magnificent that then your unconscious, yet your holographic field starts to ignite through like igniting those codes. And then you start to call in for other codes that are in resonance to that information. Meaning by this, people with like Irish people will start coming into your field, Arabic people, and this is just one example, because there are many things that when you just become aware of something, you start calling it into your universe in a very evident and tangible form. So this is the same, like, well, something similar. The moment that we become aware of that code ourselves, besides the device itself, we start to create a unified field that starts to enhance and harness the entanglement that that device has to the network that it's connected to, and then everything starts to pop up. Now, that is more from a, let's say, scientific approach. Now, if we take into consideration that there is a time clock, it's set an alarm, and now we have all these spectral spheres, we have all these spaceships, we have the orbs, we have like the arcs of Earth and the ones that are inner Earth, and creating a field that for the ones that are sensitive enough, that have their hypersensorial, their hypersensorial field more tuned into, that space memory network, that holographic field, then we can feel how all these devices are awakening. They are igniting into the next level. So, what does that implicate? Well, if we are saying that they are activating into a next level, we're talking about a more advanced form of communication. And for that to happen, there needs to be a synchronization of the field in which we inhabit, let's say, the matter, that the tangible aspect, and the non-tangible. So if at some point, let's say like in the medieval times, there was very few awareness of this, then the connection was very weak. Not because it doesn't exist, but yet because it takes from our awareness to create a reality. Again, that's how powerful we are. So, our same field, our same perception and level of awareness is helping to empower these devices. And that if we say that they're coming from a more advanced technology, another thing that it will lead to is that if we're talking about entanglement and things interconnected at the quantum level, that means us going into that very same level, which could be psionics, like telepathy. I wonder if your telepathy has been growing, has been developing into the next level. Telekinesis, clairvoyance. Why? Because our level of awareness of the interconnected universe becomes stronger. Therefore, our biology starts to act in the coherence that is required to sustain that level of reality. because again, otherwise it would collapse. If our biology doesn't sustain that level of reality, of that quantum entanglement, of that holographic universe, then reality would collapse. So everything is evolving progressively, even if there are interferences in the field that are trying to extrapolate that. And this is where our active participation comes, not just as an observer participating, yet as an active form, as an active being that takes himself, herself seriously enough to do something about it. So now, before showing the images of the book, I just want to say that because I hadn't done a live for a while, except for a few days ago with Emery and Trevor, and of course Cameron. The thing is that, as you know, I have been traveling and also working more directly with the Bugosphere. So in the research, and I have very exciting news. I won't share them in this video, but just letting you know that I will do a short clip talking a little bit more of how I have been involved in this research, which is very exciting, and I'm so grateful. You know that I have been also involved in the research of this ancient artifacts, and one of the ways that I have been actually being involved is by decoding it. For the ones that know me for a while now, or even for a bit, but have feel very much in resonance with what I share, know that I work with codes. So the way that I perceive codes is mostly from from the holographic field, meaning by this again, bringing our multidimensionality into a state of awareness using it. So, because then again, the matter stops being limited by a linear form of perception and moves into the next level of perception, which is, let's say, in spiral. Not only circular, not only linear, yet in a spiral that is taking into consideration other forms of approach, yet knowing that in the end or in the beginning, it all is interconnected by this curve, by this spin, and by curve is that way in which this space memory network, the space-time fabric, is being curved in order to create what we consider as a reality. And this is why I'm saying this, so that you understand a little bit more of how I am decoding this, in this case, this ancient textbook, because you will see that I'm using a lot of geometries. I use a lot of the holographic field, because then again, our way of reading it is not only just as a recipe, it is being able to see how it is interconnected to that field that is giving us feedback. And as much as you have just a statue, or let's say a tablet, this tablet is actually continuously signaling through a nexus to the epicenter, to that interface that is powering it. Powering it for what? To actually fulfill its purpose, its mission. Because everything has a mission, from a table all the way to a being, human being, galactic being, all the way to a sun, to a star, well, the different forms of a star, galaxy, and so forth, everything has a mission. The moment that we allow everything to fulfill its mission is when we come in resonance, when we occupy our place. And by this, you can call it being in a receptive state and emitting in correspondence, creating harmony. And that would be translated in, again, awareness. Awareness of who we are, what we came here to do. And this also, these artifacts enable the process of remembrance. Why? Because the depth of the codes, the symbols that were engraved in these artifacts are connected to the primordial field, to the primordial matrix. Some of them before there was a corrupted transmission of reality, a distorted one. Some of them, even they were after, they are still routed through this primordial field. How? Due to the level of advanced technology that they have. So, prophecies, what prophecy could possibly be involved regarding to this ancient textbook? Well, I'm going to start sharing some images. Here we go. So, by the way, thank you, my beloved Adriana, for this beautiful cup. It was a gift from one of my most beloved friends. Okay, so let me just put this expanded. I just need to see if you guys are watching it. Okay. Let me see. Because, okay, there we are. Okay, so here we have what we see as two beings in the cover of this ancient book. And we have a lion figure, and this lion figure is guarding. It's holding half of it, whereas the other feminine figure, mostly known as Ichel or Ishel by the Mayans, which is the moon goddess, we can see that because she has a serpent knotted in on the top of her head. She's also known as the Blue Lady, and she was the consort of Etzamna, which there is a lot of correlation with what we would know as a Sumerian being Enki. And that when they came, they were seven sages and also her consort. So they came to the peninsula of Yucatan, and then they started creating their civilization. They are it's very, very much specified that they came from the water. A lot of people call it from Atitlan, which is, again, also related to Atlantis. And nevertheless, without going deep into that, there are many ways to consider, let's begin. Okay, so summarizing it, I won't go too deep into the decoding of this book. I'm just giving a fair a fair view of the main message that it is carrying. And so then we have this lion figure, and we know that mainly the feline being that is connected to the Mayan cosmology is the jaguar. Okay, so not much about lions, even though here we see, like the mane. So this is unique, because it looks more of a lion than a jaguar. And we know that some of the galactic races, humanoid races that we have a clearer idea of their existence would be the Lyrans, would be the Kadistu, Urma, and Syrian, and just that we officially have accepted. And officially, I mean by by some groups that acknowledge the existence of the galactic groups. So now, um, so here it is protecting. We know that these races are very much shown in ancient Egyptian cosmology. Just to mention one, they are also very present in Chinese. Like in every ancient culture, civilization, even if they were not in the place where, like in the land, present in the land, when we're talking about prior to other ancient civilizations where there were more humans, they would only use the type of animal races that were likely to be in the land. When we talk about before that, then we will see that the lion was present in very much present in all ancient civilizations, the felines. If not all lions, felines. So, and as these humanoid beings. So now we have here the figure of what is this feminine figure very much related to the moon. So again, this is a transcription that has been given by the mainstream of archaeologists. They base this knowledge based on the codex that have been found. Unfortunately, most of the codex that have been found were created by the conquistadors, by the Spanish, after their conquest on Mexico. So they are highly inaccurate. Anyway, most of the codex were taken by other groups. And so, like, an accurate correlation of who each shell is can be, like, cannot be fully made, at least not through the texts that we have officially and that we currently have, for instance, that you can find in Mexico. But what we can do, nevertheless, what we can do is actually, like, decode quickly. So then we have the serpent and it's creating a knot. So let's say that this is energy, okay? We see that the tail is it's pointing down, so that is huge because normally when there is a snake, it is pointing up. Mainly rattlesnake, which is shown in the ancient Mayan cosmology related to Quetzalcoatl, also not only Mayan, Mexica, Aztec, and so Toltec, and so forth. But when we see that it has a knot, then it's creating a curvature in the energy, and it's pointing out weakly through a weak force all the way to what she is carrying in her hands. So she's carrying what can be a type of device that is interconnecting to the center. Now, in the center, we see a star. This star is like the entrance to that book. So when we're talking about the star, every star has a black hole at its center. It's its nature. I know this is still a theory that is recently being proved. The sun now has been officially, like recently has officially been proved that it has a black hole at the center. Not by all the mainstream of the community, the scientific community, but by many now. But I won't go there. The thing is that if we take into consideration that this is that like this star is representing that black hole in which you go inside into this field of information, then you will see the connection that it has in the following tablets. You will see that there is also this trine um, construction that is connecting these three circles, spheres, to smaller circles, spheres. And yeah, there are circles everywhere for different reasons. But when it comes to this, okay, reading it from the holographic field, not going too complex into it, we will see that every geometry has a very specific frequency, and that frequency is interacting with the rest, and then it's creating a field. So as this weak force is pointing out to this device, connecting to this star representing the black hole that takes us inside of the universe of this book, the information inside of this book, they are pointing to this to this asterum that is actually what we know by that is uh, like a group of stars that are not coming from the same constellation, yet they are creating a pattern together. And in this case, this is very much likely to the triangle of the winter triangle. We will see that in the inside of this book is the summer triangle. So that's one form of decoding it. Another way it would be actually that, and you will see why I say this once we open it, that this is also related to the way in which the spheres, the spectral spheres, are interacting with smaller spheres. Again, like imagine a mothership, and that mothership having different ships coming out of it. The same with the spheres. There are bigger spectral spheres that then are liberating smaller spheres and projecting into different directions. Now, that's another one. Another one would be considering that this is stars. These are stars, which would in this case be pointing out to Procyon, Betelgeuse in Orion, and Sirius. Then it would be that each one of these stars are, again, black holes. And in this case, the black holes have as a fundamental quantum construction the same one as a wormhole, you know? So here I'm showing it, it's naturally the other way, like this is the way that it's generated because we have Orion here, we have Canis minor here, and then we have Canis major here. And then we have, but then again, they're showing it pointing to this black hole. Let's remember that one of the most advanced technologies that they have in the past is actually the black hole technology, because they use it as a network to navigate from one place to another. You can travel from one star to another by accessing to its core, that black hole, and then traveling through the network, the black hole network that is again interconnecting them. We can see here the black star. So it's the white star, the black star, which is very much connected to, as when we're talking about the black sun, there are many theories about it. For me, it's very much connected to that, to the fact that the sun has a black hole. Okay, so, okay, here we see in the first part is the tablet with all the symbols. And I'm sorry if I don't see any comment. I don't know if you're commenting now, but I have the full screen. So I will address two messages after that I see after I stop sharing a screen. So now we have we will see that it's full of triangles, you see, and circles. Call them circles as they are perceived in a bidimensional form. There is not truly a fully bidimensional form because everything has a surface, different gradients, yet let's call it that way. So, and you will see that this pattern is very much present. I will go in depth in here. I will just mention this first. So here we have another being that is on the other side where the lion was. And again, it is connecting to that device that has at its core that black hole that even here it's shown. You see, they encoded everything. And then he's using the spheres to actually put them in this structure. So were they projecting those spheres for them to travel through that black hole? That's what I feel. That's what I have decoded. You can make your own perception of it, your own reading. And here we see that there is another form of interconnecting these spheres. So most people related to constellations, that's one of them. And the other way, if we decoded it at the quantum level, is how these spheres are interconnecting and interacting with one another. It's not the same if you interconnect them outwardly, like this, than if you interconnect them inwardly. So this is talking to us about a different pattern, a different structure in which these spheres are interconnected. So therefore creating a different network. And even though they are connected to the same one, to the same interface, they're interacting in different ways depending on their purpose, depending on their place that they are about to be relocated. And again, as simultaneously connecting to a specific constellation or a stellium, different aggregation of stars. So now here we have another being, and you will see that these beings, these beautiful ones, are you will find them in many of the depictions of these artifacts, because some of them are coming out of spheres, which is one form of reading it, which is their consciousness is interjected, is embedded within the same sphere as sentient technology, or that they are coming out of wormholes. Again, each circle representing a wormhole. So then we have a huge network of wormholes in which one of them they are these devices being funneled in order to reach through the whole interface to different places. In this case, Earth. So we can see that here there are codes, just before going there, here we have different patterns. Again, we see the circle everywhere. And here we have a cube. This could be related to the Pegasus cube. Again, the way that we see constellations now was not the same way that they created the patterns of the stars at that time, whether if it's future or past, coming from a linear form of expressing it or referring to it. But then again, how I see it, if we know that future and past is present as well and everything is simultaneously coexisting, then we know that it's fulfilling the full spectrum of light in which we get to create this unity consciousness using the information based on our resonance and what is most aligned and in the required coherence for us to evolve. Meaning by this, if it's for you suitable to see uh, the translation of Pegasus for your evolution, then go for it. If it's something else, you will turn into a different pattern of those stars of that constellation. And again, I know that I am giving like a very open translation of this book, because one of the clearest messages that I have is that the more that we move forward from absolute truths into a unified approach to reality, where we find a point in communion in all of those truths, creating a higher one, then that's the goal. And as we are unique beings, then and we are continuously evolving, what is most suitable for you now is not going to be later on. Of course, there are fundamentals in the universe that, are there are the pillars of it, yet I'm talking about the geometries. I'm talking about the way that we communicate at this universal level, which is precisely through the space time geometries. So, having said this, now we have this being, and it has like this tube interconnected into the level of its brain, the head. Yeah, brain could means too deep, like all the way connecting to its brain. No, it's mostly about projecting its consciousness. It's not that the consciousness it's only in the brain, but it's more about just imagine that another form of reading this is that each one of this can also connect at the neural level. And if you choose to remember, then you can be activating the shape of these neural pathways and creating such a high resonance with this that you will start receiving the information more than receiving, outloading it, because it's within you. So then showing how all this network can also be serving or being the reflection of a higher being in hierarchy. Let's say a being very advanced in its evolution, so therefore has the authority to project through its own um, holographic vessel how very specific technology will be um, will be used. For instance, projecting through his own mind how these spheres will be behaving, what trajectory they will be following. And this is why we know that if you communicate with one of these spheres, a consciousness will communicate through it, or many, So he has a back. It has a very beautiful indent. So we can see that it has like this geometrical patterns, and then it has also like the shape what would be of a Wi-Fi without the lines, you know, and it can be interpreted as also, let's say, like the core of a lotus flower. But anyway, again, many ways of interpreting it. The thing is that if we follow like this is an angle that is wide open and communicating, then what resides within here, it's also a whole universe that it is interconnecting to everything that is being sent through this device, which is using black hole tech. So now we have here at the center what we know as the Buga sphere code. It's the easiest way to refer to it, non-accurate at all, because of course this code comes from elsewhere, as you know, and I have shown also in many of my videos. I translated a code that has been showing up in recent ancient artifacts. That is the one that you see actually in the upper corner of this screen. I call it the Omnivision key. The galactic name is Akna, and I translated it 7 years ago. And a lot of artifacts have been found with that code, and that is like it's very much in resonance to this code. Circuitry, yes, and a level of interconnectivity to that huge, massive cosmic interface that it is projecting and signaling continuously to all these devices that have this code to unify a field with very specific um, alternative codes, or let's say branching codes. That's the word, branching codes, because they are upgrading or restoring the grid to again a seventh and a ninth dimensional level of perception. Why? Because that's where they come from. That's where they were anchored, and that's from where they are signaling. Now I'm going to read the message of the one that has been translated by scholars of what the Buddha sphere says. Again, there are other type of perceptions of what from where those letters were taken from, whether if it was from a video game, whether it true, non-true, whether if they come from Sanskrit, proto languages, proto tongues. Let's just say I will share with you this message, and then you can choose by yourself to see if you resonate with these words. Yet, what I'm going to say is very much consistent to this source engraving. So, here we go. This is the message that was translated by two different scholars in two different parts of the world. One of them, Italy, and the other one, I think it was Greece or India. And they came without communicating with one another to the same translation, which is more or so, but definitely the same core and essence of the message. In the great beginning, the primordial moment, the Spirit, through the Word, brought forth the birth of the races and lineages, leaving everything infused with the purpose of spreading and offering to the sun, to the heavens, the radiance and light of the universe and the realm of the seven worlds, of the planets and the gods. Then came the lunar phases. We have the moon there, the harvests and the sowing. The earth was secured, and cultures were formed, guided by the two principal movements. Here we have, I'm going to stop here, and you can see that in this tablet, there are two movements in different directions, creating the spiral that together create the vacuum force. Guided by the two principal movements, each with its own direction, abundance, teaching, and knowledge came into being. This was manifested from the highest, the most sublime, and the most perfect. I'm going to stop again. When we're talking about a ninth level of density, we're talking about one of the, let's say, source, perception, omnivision. Continue. It was then that the vortex was created. When you put, I'm going to stop again. When you put this together, these two motions together, the vacuum creates a vortex. I continue. It was then that the vortex was created with a great thunderous sound. Likewise, the wheel of time was formed. The astronomical wheel revealing itself in the cycles of the earth. Afterwards, the Absolute, the Most High, drew nearer to bestow the manifestation of goodness and the generation of virtues, reverence for the sacred, devotion to truth, and the expression of a spiritual strength and heroism through harmony and perfect synchronicity. Thus was established the resonance of the 30 gods. Remember, algorithms, 7 planets, 30 gods. After accomplishing this, the great vessel of Indra, Indra is also connected with water. Again, we need to keep it, it's very important for us to keep the acknowledgement that this can be translated into vast universes and leading us to different ways depending on the moment now. Continue. Commanded by the god of the atmosphere and the sky, moved freely with a mighty roar. We have the lion, the roar. For he had entrusted the solar warrior with ending the evil upon the earth. Finally, after the vessel departed, it left a warning of danger, a possible breaking of the world through atomic disasters, solar explosion, or destruction, where all could end by our own decision and responsibility. Thus, the great vital essence, the breath and creation of life itself, would be destroyed forever. Okay, so I just want to say that the engravings that were found in the Bugosphere were done after the Bugosphere. Why? Because the technology that was used is definitely not the same level of technology that the sphere has. That's one thing. Another thing that is very interesting is that uh, the engravings won't be shown in the scanner. Like if they use a photometry scanner, you will read the surface and even through tomography the inner part of the sphere. Nevertheless, the engravings are not shown. The scanner doesn't read it because at that moment the sphere is like using a high technology, let's say system, cloaking system that it aligns the frequency from the scanner or whatever is trying to emit vibrations to it, and therefore it cancels out because it starts creating that very same level of frequency. So then it cancels out and cannot be seen. So that's high technology. And again, we can see that the way that this was translated is coming from a spirit, like it's a spiritual text, you know, it's a spiritual translation. So this is also very important to take into consideration because you know that where I'm coming from is a unified science and spirituality. So here we have the science, the high technology of the Bugosphere, and then the spiritual part, which was the interpretation of it by the ones that created that symbol, that those codes, you know. So now there are another few points that I want to connect to it in relation to 3i Atlas. So as we know, 3i Atlas reached its perihelion along with Swan, this other interstellar object, just about around the same time and aligning to the sun and to the earth. There are images circulating of this huge, immense hole created in the sun after, you know, its transit. I would suggest that like you check like the source of those images because yeah, that size of hole. It's not the size of 30 times the Earth. It's actually like 100 times. And that would involve, like the Earth, the sun turning itself into a black hole already. So that's another topic. So again, it's very important to see that regardless of that, the interaction with the sun, that the 3A atlas, and therefore the connection, because there has been other scholars and academics, and for instance in Harvard, like this um, this scientist that has been talking about the 3A atlas from the very beginning, and saying that there actually have been small vessels and even spheres coming out of this 3A atlas and heading to Earth. So that's one thing of activation, one level of activation. And the other one, imagine that through the plasma, the solar plasma, bridging through the solar storms, there are huge plasma codes that are now being imprinted in the molecular structure of our water, of the water in all Earth, and of course that is being like even um, harnessed or amplified by these artifacts, because again they're signaling to very specific technologies that are now interacting or were had their perihelion with the sun. They used this plasma wave, and now there are more of these technologies, these spectral spheres coming to Earth. So this is not the first time. We have the Nuremberg phenomena, which was in, just to give precise date, this was not the first thing that happened. It has become like the most famous event, but this happened in the year of 1561, and they said that the sky was covered in these spheres. And this was not only in Nuremberg in Germany, this was also in Switzerland, like around that decade. And it was not isolated. Again, this has been a phenomenon that has happened before, years before and years after. Like we have other events happening in, let me tell you the dates so that you have an idea. There is not a very specific sequence in the numerical values, like in between these years. There is the one in Switzerland was in 5066, well, 1566. Another one in the Baltic coast, which is interesting because we have the Baltic anomaly as well, which is this spaceship that was found. And it was in 1665. We have another one in Stockholm, Sweden, 1535. And then we have in between the 16th and 7th century signs in the heavens. That's how they call them. Then, well, around, like all these years. Then we have prior to these years in ancient to medieval in 748 BCE, three suns over China. Then we have 22 BCE, Rome sees two suns. Then we have 312 CE, Constantine's key row dying in the sky. 806 CE, Japan in the Tengu Sphere event. 1111, a very interesting year number. CE, France fireballs over the countryside. 1208 CE, England, the cross and the orbs. 1230 CE, medieval China, suns fighting in the sky. 1317 CE, Basel, earlier Basel event. About to finish. 1387 CE, Florence, Italy. 1461, France, Battle of Mortimer. So, and like there are more events for sure, even all the way to modern times. So this is not isolated. Uh, it is the first time that we as a collective become aware of the story of these events and what we're experiencing right now. So uh, now you can ask yourself if there were events happening before or after that could be, from impact in that timing. And not really. Yes, there were some events, but nothing that would, be dramatic. So what I'm trying to say is that the interaction of this spectral sphere is not new at all. And the fact that now it's become so disclosed, perhaps at that time was also very disclosed, yet if we are now right here and we find it more disclosed is because we are being called to act differently, not just as woo fireballs or witches, because there are also like this stories for kids that they call them the witches, these fireballs in the mountains, and going more in depth of what scientifically, technologically this represents, spiritually as well, of course, and how can we use this technology actually to operate our body. If we say, I'm going to show a couple of images now. Um, let me see. Okay, I'm going to go into the reading in a bit. Okay, here we have I will go there. Okay, so here we have a perfect symmetry. You see, this is very hard to find like this equidistant structure. The only thing is that, well, like these circles, they are, even though this is the very interesting part, because then you can see, well, the spiral is facing the same. Why would you say it goes in two different directions? And these here goes the code of the mirror, you know? And for instance, there have been, this is super interesting, there have been scientists that that we have mirror neurons here. So the fact that what the mirror does, and in ancient times they would talk about the mirror, is that it kind of not only generates empathy, let's say like at emotional level, it generates empathy, it opens up your heart, then whether you can create positive or negative empathy, and then you end up mimetizing, what the other is showing. So if we go by mimetism or mimicry, behavior, then we will see that there are very specific genes related to that, and that there have been some scientists that have been tried to expand this mirror effect in other cells, and that other scientists have been very worried about that because they say that it can be very dangerous. But what they are trying is to defy that chirality, which is the chiralities, like for instance, our hands, they overlap if we face them in front, like face to face as a mirror. But when we try to overlap them, they don't fit, like they don't create symmetry. So that's chirality. And everything in this reality, it's chiral. Like the way that the spin, goes in many of the particles and so forth, the molecular structure of things, they create this effect where they mirror as one, but when it comes to overlapping themselves, then they create this effect. So here, if we split it at the half, we will see that it's creating that mirror effect, which is super powerful because then it's a portal. So by this, it's saying that we're capable even to connect with this technology through the mirror technology in our brain. Our mirrors neurons, because that's the technology that they are using. And that's also how a lot of the portals create. So empathy, guys, empathy, opening the heart. And yeah, so here we have more. Yeah, okay, here there is another being on the other side of the tablet. And it's a feminine figure. We see it has its beautiful crown. There is another artifact with this being that has even the Omnivision key that I translated 7 years ago in the front part. I have shown it in other videos. And she's putting 3 spheres, not one big, 3 spheres. And it's pointing out into this direction. So this is very important because when we talk about the Cartesian plane, let's say from the holographic field at its most primitive structure, we would see that then it is 4 quadrants. So that quadrant, this quadrant for, let's say, the ancient civilizations, but I'm not talking so ancient as galactic ones, yet the ones that transmitted the knowledge and the wisdom from the galactic ones, like the Incas, they would consider this as the quadrant of the unknown, and this quadrant of the unknown would be very much related to also a very specific universe, a very specific reign, as a kingdom. And then what it mainly comes to is that, if we go into a very simplified way, that the fact that they unfold into 4 quadrants is the way that we get the 2 constants of space and time, and then we move forward into the third density, the third dimension, by creating an alter constant, a third party. We have x, y, and z, and then that z is in between x and y, and then you create third density, which is also very much connected to all these triangles here. There are many ways to translate it. Also embedded in our DNA and how it reflects in our pyramidal neurons, pyramids, cells, to our tetrahedral structure of our telomere DNA. But then again, when it's pointing out, why would it be pointing out to the unknown? And then on this side, there comes a sphere. So where it's heading to, it's interconnected, and the sphere comes. So the sphere is bringing that information from the unknown, and it's imprinting 3 spheres, 3 small spheres. Again, that trine, which is many ways to translate it, mainly, and the one that for me is more consistent to what we are experiencing right now as a humanity is reaching that point in communion where these 2 polarities come together and create a third party, that singularity, which is the communion of them all. And even though it's not the same structure, because it's more of, like the black hole, the white hole, and then the singularity at the center in a linear way, that trinity is creating that approach in which these 3 aspects are equidistant to one another. There is no higher authority yet, because the triangle can be flipped into any direction. And here we have, this, the symbol by symbol. I just want to point out once, the first thing is that none of these symbols are repeated, none of them. So we can only see this, and we can go even lower, to the whole tablet. When non-symbol is repeated, what we're talking about are different constants that put together, woven together, intercombined together, they create unique extensions, or let's say unique segments. Like in our DNA, we have the 4 codons. We have the 64 codons coming from 4 nucleotides. So, well, actually, the 4 combinations of those, there are multiple combinations, but then we have the 64 codons, and we have 4 main constants that are used into different combinations. Again, We have algorithm 64, 4, and so forth. So just not to go into another topic, this is showing to us that this is, let's say, a unique construction. Let's say, like, the genetic imprint of this technology, the encoded information that creates this technology. This is why it's unique, every symbol. That's one way. Another way we can see, okay, so we are being shown as formulas how in this circle the angle is created. So these lines are actually interacting with this circle, creating the angle, in which this sphere is actually interacting with this mother sphere, let's say stem sphere, and then creating a very specific um, frequency, a very specific formula, equation, a very specific interaction into the field of this wholeness. Now, all of this, which is, like was saying, okay, you get equations, you get a recipe, you get a formula, you get directions of. And now you have like this main, like what would be the constants in this case? We have circle, we have this oval, we have triangles, and we have lines, and we have these angles. So those would be the constants, and then they intercombine with one another, and they start creating unique codes, unique source codes that all together are intertwined. Here's the whole tablet. And here there is another being. I just need to see, because there was, I think it's after. Okay, so here we have this. You might recognize it from this famous statue that is mostly found in all churches, which is Mary carrying Yeshua, or Emmanuel, and then you have them having these spheres. So were they pointing out from the very beginning the importance of these spheres, of these spectral spheres? Because even in the painting of Salvatori Mundi, from Leonardo da Vinci, it has a plasma sphere or a spectral sphere, and it has the same spring constellation, or I mean summer triangle asterum, which I will show in a bit. These are super important, this triangle, summer and winter triangle. They are shown in all these depictions, and it's for a very specific reason, and I will show in a bit one of the reasons why. So are all of these spheres coming from there? No, evidently no. Yet they are very influential in our reality right now. It's a code, a source code. So he's holding, he's going to imprint them here, again, send them to that black hole. And okay, here we have the summer triangle, which is the communion of Aquila, the constellation of Aquila. Well, here we have the Aquila, like it couldn't be more obvious. Then we have the Nib, and then we have the star of Al-Denib, so together they create an asterum. And this, which is the serpent, is very much connected also to Pleiades, so there, and this was a prophecy that was spoken by the Aztecs, that Huitzilopochtli, which was an Aztec god, a Mexica god, or divine nature being, or galactic being mainly, pointed out to the Aztecs where they would need to create their new city. So there was an alignment, there was an interaction in between these two constellations that created a prophecy that whenever that would happen, they would need to create their new city. This is mostly related, like to the eagle devouring the serpent, but here we don't see that at all. Again, translation of the codex by the conquistadors, and again, no offense to the conquistadors, everything has a divine purpose, a perfect purpose. What I'm talking about is like the distortion of the information was huge and was adapted to, uh, like private conveniences. So personal, let's say, purposes. So, and then here we have again these spheres interacting, different vessels, and creating different frequencies of interaction also with these codes. Let's say suspendedly around this that has like arrows, could be like arrows, expanding. Again, in the other one, oh, this is super important. This is showing singularity. So now it's showing that the black holes reached a singularity. So this was a huge event at that time, a huge event. And so now I just want to see if they're okay. Well, just was checking in some details. Okay, so now we am about to finish. And here we have it again. Here I'm showing Alter, which is in the constellation Aquila. I'm sorry, it was the Neb in Cygnus, which is the Swan, and then Vega, which is the constellation of Vega and the star of Lyra. These are fixed stars or Behinian stars, and they used it for navigation purposes, but they also used them as marking points of specific events that would be opening up. So if we see in the other one, it shows just, let's say, the wormhole. Here it shows already the singularity. So something huge was reached, interstellarly speaking or astronomically speaking, in this interaction. That was very much also provided by the Pleiadians, because the Pleiadians had a lot of connection and presence in the Mayan culture as well as the Syrians. And so I'm about to finish now. Thank you. It was okay. So when I say that each symbol, each code is a sphere, I was explaining that at Emory in the panel with Emory. Imagine that each code is a sphere, and it's rotating. It projects into 720 degrees, creates a sphere, and that all together create a bigger sphere, which is known as a voxel. And those voxels are embedded, are anchored, or construct the space memory network, the Akasha, where all the information resides. So each one of these are interconnected to the space memory network, where you can access to source, and to all information that you required. I put another image here. Here it is, the voxel. So you see it's constructed by million and infinite spheres. And all of this is what we could call an archive of the Akasha, book of the library of the Akasha. And it's showing all the information. You can tune into it, you can connect with it, and then again, each one of this is a sphere that is creating a bigger sphere and connecting you to the quantum, to the holographic field. So yeah, here it is. It's like sometimes it can be shown as a cube, a qubit, but it's actually a sphere. The qubit is actually when it's locked into a simulation and incubation and it's not ready. I show here how it is connected as a nexus, there. And here again, this beautiful image. And here we see the other elongated skull, pretty elongated Syrian one. And again, we can see that this is the winter triangle where it's serious, very serious, precisely Procyon and Betelgeuse. And then it's heading to this sphere where she encoded all the information, and then playing a very specific structure in this neural pathway of the space memory network, projecting information to us embedded in our grid, in our network, Hertz network. And here it's on the bottom. We see this guy, beautiful guy with a helmet, and then again holding two spheres with that same asterum, triangular. So the forms of interaction and a higher wheel that it was talking about the wheel of time. So it's navigating it. They were using these spheres to navigate through the quantum by imprinting information, receiving information, connecting, communicating, and designing and constructing reality. So that's about it. I will stop sharing screen. And well, I just want to thank you all for your presence in this in the translation of this ancient textbook. So mainly the prophecy, what would it be? That this book shows precisely what we are experiencing right now. Now what? What is pointing out to a huge interaction with the galactic community, and that the more that we connect with these spectral spheres, the more that we will be capable to access to this information, and then accelerating, which be more of synchron thinking, that creating that synchronization to that network, that resonance, and therefore our memory will be more effective. Our process of remembrance will be more coherent to the cosmic clock. And therefore, processes like generating or creating the singularity within won't be so far-fetched, because we will know our potential and not only be aware of it, yet embodying it. And yeah, so that is so important. So if you today have like different visions or specific dreams due to everything that you tuned into through this book, just by looking at the book, you can write the comments in this video. I also want to invite you to the Rise of the Guardians conference in Sedona, May. I will be there presenting, speaking. I will be sharing with technology, uh, not only holographic technology, yet devices, how you can read the frequency that your DNA is emitting and the cymatics that it generates, which is what I translate, and then activate, so that you can activate the full spectrum of your DNA, and therefore connecting at a more coherent level with the space memory network, and harnessing your process of remembrance, and also enabling that transition of the water to its state, which is highly cohesive with our plasma body, and therefore illuminating. And I'm not talking only in like spiritual terms or religious ones. It's about fully sparking your light, your luminous DNA, your rainbow body. So I'm very excited for this presentation, for this talk that I will be offering. There are also surprises. I don't want to be a spoiler. I will let Rion give the news, but yet we have a very interesting and important guests for this. And that we will be sharing a space of unity, of cohesive evolution among all of us, and sparking that love of a soul tribe, galactic tribe, that we're coming together to make ourselves heard and felt, sensed by the whole cosmos, creating shifts in this earth, because huge shifts happen from these conferences. And there will be like amazing lineup. Very honored to be part of that lineup, as always, and for your support. I will the link, if you are joining us, the link is in the description of this video. You can access to that link and get your tickets. Right now, you will get early bird pricing, which is a very good discount. And wow, also tomorrow I will be, well, see you there, see you there. We will be sharing, we will be having a space to connect at a physical level. Yeah, and having a lot of fun, uh, also dancing, because what is knowledge and wisdom without having fun embodying it? And we'll always have a blast. And yeah, your presence is very much required, and grateful for it. So see you there, and looking forward to share with you more, not only in these videos, yet in presence, and about this technology that I'm bringing forward. I'm very grateful and humble about being delivering this information that has helped so many people, that I have been honored to translate their source codes, their geometries in this technology. And right now with these devices, it's the next step, the next level of sharing this into even a deeper state of evolution of your holographic vessel, of your plasma body, of your interconnection to the quantum, yet from a spiritual and heart loving space. So, having said this, see you also tomorrow. I will be having an amazing show with Dr. Amir. Well, Harangiri. I hope I mentioned your Harangiri, your name correctly. An amazing, a lovely friend. We had the opportunity to be together in the Mexico trip in our last adventure in Mexico, in sacred lands, doing powerful activations. So we will be talking also about the plasma body. So see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, thank you. Until next time. Hunu.